Hi, everybody, and welcome to the new episode of the NSL's podcast. My name is Stephen. I'm joined again by my co-host John. How are you, John?
Yeah, not too bad, Stephen, mate. How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm all good. We've got plenty of topics to speak about tonight, and also joined by a show regular, Anthony Dunn. How are you, Anthony?
I'm okay, mate. Good to speak to you guys again. Raring to go.
Yeah, no worries, lads. So, as I said, there we'll have plenty of topics to talk about, and the first one we'll go on to, I just titled it as simple as this, and just like that, the season's over. Funny enough, when I put that on Instagram underneath on the captions of the photos, some guy commented and said the season's been over since November. I think we all tend to agree with that. It's quite funny when you look at that. But as a Celtic fan, looking at the end of the season and that game was seen against Hibs, and many of us were kind of infuriated when we seen the lineup coming in. Come to yourself, Anthony, first for this, and you're going to yourself, why not give the youth a chance? It played out a boring 0-0 draw. Yes, it was maybe fitting. I don't want to say that word for Scott Brown's farewell because it's Hibs and Celtic, blah, 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 the emotional connection for the two teams from his point of view. But that game, Anthony, that was seen against Hibs, for me, it was brutal. It was the end of season feel. It was like a friendly. It just pointed out to me again that Kennedy is the most ballless manager I've ever experienced. He can't make a decision for himself. Everything's based on the previous regime under Lennon, which him and Strachan were part of.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, considering as well how the fact that he did have a few of the youngsters in on the Wednesday night before, and all of them did very well. I can understand there wasn't necessarily a reason for bringing Taylor back in, but we know what we're getting for Greg Taylor. Montgomery, I thought, had a good game on Wednesday night. I don't really, unless it was maybe an injury or something, wasn't necessarily sure at all why he wasn't playing. And in the brief time that he was on the pitch, we've seen what Dembele can do on Wednesday as well. So yeah, I found it very strange that we sort of resorted to type again. And like you say, Stephen, it was the total damp squib, the typical end of season venture where a lot of players all have, they'll be playing their last game for the club. I thought it was another good chance to throw some boys in, but alas, it wasn't to be.
It's almost like you look at the end of season games in previous years gone by. It's kind of the opportunity to see what players will be involved next season, who's going to excite. I mean, that's where Dembele comes into that, because even in the game against Hibs, James Forrest didn't even start. He was on the bench. So again, we're going into that game, John, with no width, which we've been crying out for basically since the season started after Forrest got injured. And you're looking to see, as Anthony rightly said, there are likes of Montgomery get a second game, because I know we're going to get from Greg Taylor. It's a damp squib. It's the end of the season. It's a dead rubber. And it's a chance for us fans to look forward to seeing some of these new young players like Dembele next season, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head at the start there, Stephen, when you says that Kennedy just proved again he's the most ballless manager you've seen. And it's a sentiment that a sentiment that echoes everything that I've been saying for the past couple of weeks, as well as I'm sure other guys have agreed. He lacks any ideas, any originality. It honestly doesn't feel like it's even him picking the team. It wouldn't surprise me if he's just playing puppet and somebody else is sort of telling him what he needs to do. But I mean, like he says, Anthony quite really touched on, it was a perfect opportunity to give the young guys a game. We said that after the game there midweek. We gave our predicted lineups and who we'd like to see. I said then as well, I don't think anything's going to change. I don't think Kennedy has it in him, or the ideas, or the originality to make those changes and to do something different. And it just proved me right. And the game itself was just abysmal.
It was diabolical, to tell the honest truth, like, wasn't it? That, as you said, your man Kennedy, when he came in, fair enough, as interim manager, you're thinking to yourself, we don't want him as manager, but maybe he has something up his sleeve. Maybe he can do something different with the team, Anthony. Maybe he can play a different formation, get them playing a different way, back to a wee bit of passing style football rather than the direct kind of style we've been seeing, which isn't quite working at the moment at Celtic. But as me and John said there, he's absolutely ballless. He has no ideas of his own. And I agree with John. It wouldn't surprise me if he's playing puppet to someone else.
Yeah, but like you say, I don't understand why. Neil Lennon left in February, and there's not really been any upturn in fortune at all. And perhaps that is because, obviously there is two of the three voices that the players are hearing are the same ones that they heard when Neil was there. I found it really baffling as the games went on. You could understand maybe the first couple of games just trying to just get a basic shape and sort of try to build something for there. But when it was clear that wasn't working, and when the season became mathematically impossible to claw anything back, there really was ample opportunity there to, like I say, throw some boys on. I think going back to the very first time I was on this podcast, I actually says, why aren't we? But especially at that time when James Forrest was out, starting young Dembele. I mean, he's very highly rated by a lot of the people that tend to get these predictions quite right. He's one of the most highly rated young players in Europe, and from the brief times that we've seen him, he's living up to that billing for me. He's fearless. He's got pace. He's direct. I don't understand why at some point we didn't just think, you know what, throw him in for a few games. What's the harm? The season is gone. But I think it's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
It's as well for me. Sorry, Anthony. It's like if you look at it and you're going, if he can't last a full game, Dembele, give him a half, give him the first half, give him the second half. Just bring him on the pitch, blood him in, and it's no surprise watching these young players leave Celtic. And I've heard people say before this they're leaving for big European clubs like Bayern Munich, blah blah blah. But surely, if likes of Bayern Munich are interested in our youngsters, they should be getting the chance before they go to them clubs, getting a taste of first team football at Celtic, John. And we looked at the lineup. Kenny was in again. Moy was in, both unknown players, more than likely to go back to their parent clubs. And to touch upon Laxalt and Duffy as well, Laxalt didn't get really look in towards the end of the season. But for me anyway, all them players, I know there's a clamour for Moy maybe to get another chance at Celtic, but again, that's another one where you're kind of forcing a player upon a new management team who might not want that player. I personally don't want any of them loan players at Celtic. How would you review them loan players at Celtic overall if you go through the four of them? Where do they stack up for you?
They've been pretty lackluster, I guess. I mean, Kenny, we've touched on numerous times. He's very boring. He makes a lot of mistakes as well, which you don't need. And for the type of player that he is, and the type of player that we need, those kind of wing backs, we need them to be sort of attacking minded and be able to run up and down the park. He just doesn't have that in him. So, I mean, for me, Kenny, forget Kenny, Duffy. I'm not even touching on Duffy. I think we all know how we feel about Duffy. Laxalt, he's shown that he's a capable defender. I think there's definitely a player in there. He wouldn't be on the books of AC Milan or playing for the national team if he wasn't a talented guy. Maybe it's just the pace of the game up here in Scotland that he's not adapting to too well. We've seen it with numerous other players. I wouldn't say he's a bad player, but I mean, I don't think it would be something I would maybe look at as a backup option, and that's only if you could get him on a cut price deal, because I think the kind of money he's valued at the minute would definitely not worth that. And Elyounoussi, I can't speak highly enough. Elyounoussi, we know how good he is. I would definitely bring Elyounoussi back. I mean, you just need to look at his record. He's second top. I believe he's the second top goal scorer in the team, and that's this season with limited starts and playing very little time actually off the bench as well. So the fact that he's managed to score as many as he has in the sort of limited time that he's actually been on the pitch, and like I say, we've seen what he's capable of. We know what he's capable of. He's a great player. He can score goals. He's a good wide man. He can bring the ball inside as well. He can pass. So Elyounoussi is definitely somebody I would look at, but he's the only one, I guess, who are the lone guys that I would say for any certainty that I'm happy with.
But just looking back on that point, John, very quickly about Elyounoussi, is that not and we've seen the same clamour for Paddy Roberts to come back, but what if it's just simply the case of a new management team coming in, they're not interested, but again, the fans are calling for this, and just say the board make it happen, and the management team doesn't want Elyounoussi in. Surely the management team gets full autonomy over who should come in now, because we've seen the problems that caused between Rodgers and Law.
No, I mean, absolutely, and I fully expect, and we need to give whoever the Eddie Howe the full autonomy over who we're signing and full control over all that. And I'm sure that those discussions are being had anyway, regardless of the fact he's not been announced. I'm sure there's still discussions taking place. If he's not interested and he doesn't want Elyounoussi there, then that's up to him. I personally, I rate Elyounoussi and I would have him back. But at the end of the day, if the new manager coming in doesn't see him as somebody that he could be part of that setup, then that's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, another way you could flip it, Anthony, as well, if you look at it from a different angle. If these players come in, so John touched upon Celts on the books of AC Milan. Duffy was a Premier League regular, Republic of Ireland captain. Kenny's played in the Bundesliga. Moy Elyounoussi is a £17 million player. Could you look at it upon they've come in this season, and maybe Moy was there last season, but he was injured for some of it too. But could you look at it? These loan players come in with the reputations and stuff, and they get down to the business. The first couple of games, Duffy scored a few goals. Laxalt looked decent. Kenny looked solid. We all said he was solid before he turned into the most boring player we've ever seen. But could it not be them falling down to the standard that Celtic have set this season, Anthony, in terms of the way they're playing? We've seen Turnbull even have a wee dip in form as well towards the end of the season. I don't know what you think about that in particular.
I think that's a very good point to make, Stephen. Standards have dropped so dramatically since Brendan Rodgers left Celtic that it's only natural that perhaps a lot of these players who are maybe used to those at least similar standards being set at other clubs, coming in to seeing, let's be frank here, from top to bottom, we are an amateur outfit right now. We are in a very, very sad state, and especially if you do not have the, well, I suppose Sean Duffy does have the sort of emotional connection with the club, but you can, I'm not using it as an excuse for them, because they're professional footballers, they're very handsomely paid for what they do, and none of the four of them, I would say, Elyounoussi is blown hot and cold, but all four of them on paper have got more than enough credentials about them to go and ply their trade up here and do it well, and they haven't done so. And I think, although it can't be solely blamed on that, I think absolutely the shambolic fall in standards in every department of the club will have played a part in that, absolutely.
Yep, for me, Anthony, the reason I made that point is because you see players leave certain clubs, right, and they go to a club with a bigger reputation. AC Milan to Celtic, similar reputations in terms of worldwide stance and history and fan base and stuff. And Laxalt's played for Uruguay. He was in the World Cup Team of the Year, I believe, as well. So when he first came in, he looked fantastic. He was getting forward and he was whipping balls along the box. And I want to hear your point on this, John, because we've seen the continental players, especially the likes of Laxalt, they're whipping the balls in the box, and Celtic players this year aren't getting in them positions. And he's regressing his play when he's coming inside, the likes of what Christie does all the time, and we're crying out for that width. And Anthony rightly said there, the drop in standard has been that significant. Players seem to be dropping with it. Do you think that played a factor in some of the loan moves this season?
I mean, yeah, it's fair to say, absolutely. I mean, it's evident when you watch them, the standards have dropped, because these guys just a season or two ago, the guys were winning everything and were playing at a very high standard. And as Anthony rightly says, since Rodgers left, you've seen it regress. I think there's more to it than that. There has to be. I don't think these guys, like I says, we know how talented some of these guys are and how well they can, how good they can be on their day, and we've seen flashes of it as well during this season, like against St Johnstone there, where Edouard took his goal. We've not seen that film this year. Those kind of touches and stuff like that, or very rarely. We know he's a talented footballer, but I think there's stuff. I think the stuff that's obviously went on behind the scenes that we are not privy to, and will probably likely never will be unless stuff starts coming out later through Lennon and those types. But I mean, I think there's definitely something else adding to it. I don't think it's just a case of. I do agree. Yes, standards have dropped. That's evident. But I think there's more to it than that, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if there's something going on behind the scenes that's got to cause it. And again, you've got at this point as well, you've got guys, agents and that, try to get players moves away, heads are turning, heads are down as well. So they just need somebody and this is why getting a manager in as quickly as possible was so important. Is we need somebody to come in and get their heads lifted again and sort of try and instill that back into them.
Yeah, I think Shane Duffy alluded to it when he gave his kind of farewell post that said nobody knows what goes on behind the scenes of a club or behind the scenes in people's personal life. And as you rightly said, the only way we'll ever find that out is from Lennon or other sources who was involved at the club at the particular time everything went wrong. And Lennon's already said there's mitigating factors that we probably will never know. And you look at John Kennedy's time in charge, it was 10 games, 11 games, 4 wins from 10, not even the 50% win record. One of them wins was against a League One club in Falkirk, Anthony. For me, that doesn't bode well for him and his future at Celtic. But the more this drags on with the likes of Eddie Howe and the coaching staff, are they going to come up from Bournemouth? And you're going to yourself, is it one of them on Celtic you're going to have to press the button and keep Kennedy? Or do you think they should just bite the bullet and let him and Strachan tattle off?
If it was up to me and I had the full authority to do that, him and Strachan would be out the door as well, Stephen. I just think this summer coming up, everyone talks about this, we need continuity and all that. For me, John Kennedy, along with Gavin Strachan, along with Peter Lawwell, along with so many others, are just symbols of basically an acceptance of failure this season. The rot set in at Celtic a while ago with people who should be doing their jobs better asleep at the wheel. You can't blame John Kennedy for all of Celtic's woes. Of course you can't, but he's symbolic of the drop in standards. When you look at this weekend, the failures of Celtic and their refusal to build from a position of strength, you've seen what the end product of that is, not only at Ibrox, but down at Wembley Stadium as well. The contrast on the different fortunes of each club is huge, and it's all because of people not doing their jobs properly. And a few years ago, it was us at our national stadium with Brendan Rodgers celebrating, yet another trophy, and everything being good behind the scenes. Season 1. It's not impossible that you can get back to that, but the people who are to blame for the mess we're in now have to go. They can't stay around for continuity's sake or whatever, mealy-mouthed nonsense we'll get fed with that. People don't need John Kennedy. New players coming in or new people coming into the club don't need John Kennedy or Gavin Strachan to show them around and tell them how good a club it is. Our club sells itself. It doesn't need guys that have been around too long in positions they should never have been in to try and sort of promote us, as it were. They're the reason. These guys are the reason we're in the mess that we're in. And the idea, I'll be, of course, it would be up to Eddie Howe or any new manager coming in, but whoever he wants around. But if he doesn't want him around and he's sort of forced to keep him, then already you're setting off a new era on a bad foot. Yeah. If it was up to me, cheerio, all of them. Thanks for your, service in inverted commas, but, don't hurry back.
I think you're 100% right when you say about Brendan Rodgers, and many people obviously still hold a grudge against him, and fair enough, you can do that at your own will, but it was quite ironic. He's lifting a trophy with Leicester while our season ends and Rangers are lifting a trophy at the end of the season for them winning their first championship. But you're right when you say the rut set in. It's so deep now. We even heard at the Celtic forums and Celtic fan meetings that we've heard the sound clips, or we've heard the bits of quotes coming out now. It's just basically saying we've got no ideas going forward, and that scares me, John, to be honest, because as I said there, Kennedy, 4 wins from 10. It's almost like, we've said it before, but again, it's important because especially now at the end of the season, and it's still the same problems. We said it week 1 in the podcast when we all started. We were like, change needs to happen, and we're saying it again in our 28th podcast. Do you know what I mean? So the weeks are dragging on; they're going so quick. And for me and us guys as well on the podcast as normal supporters, you're looking at this situation going, the more this goes on, it looks like John Kennedy is staying at Celtic. I don't know if that's what you're thinking, but that's certainly where I'm coming from.
I'm honestly trying not to even think about it. We said when Kennedy first took the position that questions were asked, what if, do you think he maybe deserves a chance if we win every game between now and the end of the season, we win the Scottish Cup or whatever? And even then, I think most of us were against it. I was certainly against it. The fact that we're now hit the end season point, he's done absolutely hee-haw. He showed complete lack of any sort of fresh ideas, any change, any leadership or anything along those sort of lines. He's just not a manager. And like I say, it wouldn't surprise me if he's just the face and there's somebody else sort of puppeting the strings behind the scenes, because as we know, the Celtic board are good at that. They like making decisions themselves. They like taking control of things and going behind people's backs. So it wouldn't at all surprise me. And it certainly looks that way, because Kennedy in interviews talks a good game. He'll say stuff about, changes, we'll make changes, there's going to be changes, and then he makes hee-haw changes. So
Yeah.
It's baffling, but I'm in firm and total agreement with you, and Anthony said it perfectly. I would get them to Falkirk. Honestly, there's no reason to keep them there. Strachan, I mean, he's there off his dad's back. He's nothing but a name. Doesn't deserve to be there. Kennedy, he's got this tie with Celtic since he was a player, and obviously had that injury, and they felt a need to sort of keep him around the club, which at the time was a great gesture. But there's no reason to cling on to it. And like I say, it's time for change across the board, and we need to just get rid of everybody and then just start with a fresh, clean slate.
It is quite annoying when you hear like the words banded about continuity. We need to keep people close in the club, people who know Celtic about for this new management team coming up, Anthony. But at the end of the day, they don't talk the good game. The board I'm talking about here when it comes to us Celtic fans, it's just kind of take what you're given and shut up. That's what it sounds like at the moment. But again, they're banding out words and whatever wee snippets of statements like continuity. We need this to happen. Due diligence, and you're looking upon it as the end of the season, as John said, and we're still as all Celtic fans are talking about the same problems, the same issues. And 6 weeks away, I think, from our first I think it's pre-season, or maybe our first qualifying game. Not too sure about that, but I'm sure someone will correct me. But it's coming close. And you look at it, Anthony, and you're going to yourself, what's going on? Because me personally, like coming from my point of view, if Kennedy had the balls to make changes and give people chances and try new formations, then you can maybe make the argument for maybe staying as a coach or reserve team manager for this new Celtic Colts team in the Lowland League. But at the end of the day, as Sean said, he showed no tactical nous whatsoever. It's been the same old crap that we've been accustomed to for the best part of the whole season now, really. And you're coming to the end of the season, you're hoping for news. Even yesterday, a wee statement coming out saying there's going to be change in the coming weeks. But again, it's absolutely nothing. How are you feeling about all this, especially if we reach the end of the season?
Yeah, I always believed that there was always a chance with these people in charge that it could get as bad as this. But I did genuinely hope that it was me that was going to be in the wrong about that. Unfortunately, everything I've always feared with the people that run Celtic has came to fruition in this year of all years. There is no argument in their favour now for on any level on the way that they lead, in inverted commas, this club. We are a few weeks away now from our first instalment coming off our season book. Not only have they not only sent the forms out, they haven't actually even started the PR campaign yet, because they're actually asking Celtics about, we'll get onto this on the forum chat, but they're actually urging Celtic fans to email in their stories so they can sort of jazz it up for their sort of season ticket PR campaign. That just shows you how utterly useless these people are. And it frightens me that anyone worth their salt will take one look at this mob and just say, or even if they do come, they ain't going to be here for long. It really is incredible just how much people can hang on coattails of a successful person or persons, and yet the minute when they've to step up to the plate and show a bit of leadership, they're found wanting. But it's not just Desmond, it's not just Lawwell, it's not just Brian Wilson or any of the other empty people filling our boardroom this now. It's a collective failure. They're the reasons why John Kennedy is Neil Lennon's replacement. Neil Lennon was appointed in a shower room after a cup final win. If that's not a drop in standards or poor leadership, then I don't know what is. And everything we feared on that day when we heard that announcement has sadly came true. And all I can hope is that, and I must admit, I've not been totally enamoured with his debut. I hope Don Mackay's got more about him, because my God, the Kerrydale suite at Parkhead needs a bit of professionalism in it, because right now we are ran by amateurs.
Yeah, that's a great point, and you're right. We will touch upon the Celtics fans forum. It will sure be an interesting chat among the three of us. But before we get to that, and we get into them issues that we've all seen now, and it's been confirmed by people who are at the meeting what actually was said, so we'll get into more detail about that. But coming to yourself, John, I have to admit to you, I'm going to give this to you. I woke up this morning, I don't know why, confident that Eddie Howe was going to be manager, right? And then it got to about lunchtime, to seeing Crystal Palace, Roy Hodgson's leaving. I know what you're going to say. Let's let me finish the point. But we've seen lots of murmurings around Crystal Palace. We've seen lots of rumours around the likes of Newcastle, and now Crystal Palace have confirmed basically that Roy Hodgson is leaving. He's come out with a statement saying as much as well. Is that not putting the shitters up you a tiny bit? That if Celtic don't get their act together now. Before you get, there is a lot of complications. I mean, James P. Forrest touched upon it. You don't know if he signed paperwork, so he might be able to change his mind. So, is it not kind of putting you a wee bit up shit's creek? Or are you still really confident?
I'm still confident. I mean, the situation with Hodgson hasn't been a secret. We've known, I think, by and large, in Britain, the larger footballing community knew that Hodgson was going to step down at the end of this season. There's been talk about that all year. We're led to believe that Crystal Palace was an option. They did approach Howe, and he rejected it. He was one of the clubs that were listed and named as a club that he's turned down. So Hodgson actually stepping down as expected. Hasn't changed anything for me, and I believe that Lampard's actually the favourite to get that job at the minute. So
yeah, it's widely reported that Lampard's the favourite.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm still firmly confident and in the belief that Howe will be the Celtic manager. Again, it's not a matter of if; it's just a matter of when. I believe that the delay is down to some, and I've been checking in, sort of just doing a bit of due diligence, I guess, and checking sort of local media in Bournemouth, checking their fans groups and forums and stuff like that, just to see what the hearsay is doing there, to see if they're getting anything different. And they are firmly and soundly in the belief as well that he's coming to Celtic. I understand that it is a contractual issue as well. That seems to be getting brought up a lot by the Bournemouth fans, and that they believe that he's still under some form of contract, although he stepped down for the position as manager. Apparently, he still had a year left in his contract, and they are seeing that out for him as a goodwill for everything he's done for the club as well. So he's still technically under contract, and it likely won't be announced officially until that's kind of wrapped up. But yeah, to answer the question, I'm firmly in the belief that Howe will be made announced as the Celtic manager in due course.
Yeah. I don't know why I woke up this morning confident. I mean, on the podcast, you guys know him. If you until it's confirmed in black and white, as James P. Forrest said, you just don't know any narrative that behind the scenes or what's going on. Like, there's a lot of rumours saying that the Bournemouth promotion push is delaying any announcements because he wants coaches or staff in there. But then again, if they go up to the Premier League, what's going to happen with the coaches? Will they want to stay on and is he back to square one again? And that kind of throws you up a wee bit. What's going to happen next, kind of thing, Anthony. Another exciting thing for the show as well. A Bournemouth season ticket holder actually approached the show on Twitter, and he's kind of given his views on Eddie Howe, and he's willing to appear on the podcast and talk about his time with Bournemouth. So we'll get him on as soon as possible to give every Celtic fan, when it happens, if it happens, when Eddie Howe's announced, we'll get the lowdown from a Bournemouth season ticket holder. But coming to yourself, Anthony, is it not a bit worrying that still, again, that the board kind of haven't come out and said, look, we've got a manager, we can't name him yet, but he's here, it's signed, and you'll find out in the coming weeks. Is that not something that could be done? Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I know what you mean. They were actually discussing this on Axom. I can't remember if it was yesterday or today. The actual title of the show was, even whilst Bournemouth still on the promotion push, what's to stop us announcing how? And I'm as I'm as baffled as the rest. You know, you guys, Wally was talking about it a lot on Friday night. As you know, just announced something. I don't have any argument against it. I can only think it must be some sort of contractual thing where all parties have got to remain silent on the matter. That's all I can think of. Because apart from that, there's no other reason. It's not doing anyone any good to maintain this silence. I can only imagine it's from a legal standing.
Yeah. I know everyone's obviously fed up of the hearsay and the rumours and stuff, and especially William on our show, he cracks up every time I mention he doesn't like he's like waiting Sky Sports for the yellow banner and stuff. So I know fans' opinions of different people come round and round the circles of the how, but it's just important to cover it and see if there's any new angles to come with it. But we'll swiftly move on to something we can actually talk about and we've seen in detail coming out over the last few days, which is the Celtic fans forum, Anthony. Now, I'm interested to hear both your points. You've been venting it in the group, so I'm interested to hear it in the podcast as well. We done a piece on the podcast on Friday with what we knew, which was basically asking the fans for ideas, which points again to the lack of forward planning. They've asked for the full quotation of season books to be sold at full price again with no added value as it currently stands. They've basically come out with a narrative. If you don't back the team, we can't back the squad with transfers, Anthony. And what do you think that tells us as fans? And also, kind of throw out as well that we heard that Dominic Mackay was in fact in these meetings and he was just throwing out the old cliche things that you would hear from a chairman or from a new prospective chairman. But I'm not going to go too hard on Dominic Mackay because again, we don't know what he's about. We haven't heard directly from him, so can leave him to one side. But what does that fans forum tell you, Anthony, about where we're currently sitting?
Well, to start with, again, another shout out to the Axon boys. I was listening to their show yesterday, and it was Tony Hegarty and Kevin Graham and Russell Boyce, and Kevin Graham was actually in attendance at the meeting, and all of the stuff that you guys spoke about on Friday, but like you say, weren't able to confirm. He confirmed every single one of the rumours. So to start with, yes, Dominic Mackay did use the term noisy neighbours, and another few David Brent-esque cliches. Like you say, we can't go too hard on him. It was his first outing, but yeah, he did sort of fail to allude the fact that the only reason our neighbours are very noisy at the minute is because of the failures of his new colleagues. But yeah, so for starters, that bit was true. Yeah, they also confirmed that, and that's where, as I was saying earlier, that they asked season ticket holders to sort of email them their own little favourite memories of going along to the games, and they were going to try and use that to jazz up the PR campaign for selling season tickets. So here we are, a few days away for the Scottish Cup final, and the season ticket forums haven't even been created yet. Kevin also alluded to the fact that the first person who stood up, he couldn't confirm it as fact, but it didn't sound. It sounded as if very much like the board had almost like a plant. He used is the term. The first guy that stood up says no supporter should be demanding a refund. I've got the season ticket here. I've got money for 6 season tickets here for my family, and that's exactly how we should. That's how we should all be thinking. Brian Wilson, who was chairing the meeting at the time, just simply responded.
Can I just interject there? Sorry, before you go on, Anthony.
Yeah.
Brian Wilson, I named him as a Celtic director on Friday. I'm not sure if he is a director or he just chaired the meeting. That's still up for debate here, but I'm just throwing that out there before you carry on.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. But his response to that was basically, "Here, that's what we all like to hear." Which is, if that doesn't, if any, there's a lot of fair play to the guy if he's in a position to pay for 6 season tickets, but there will be many Celtic supporters unable to pay for one at the minute. There might be a lot of supporters that don't necessarily want a discount, but may need it to be able to afford to come back next season. When you, not just on the back of a poor season where all the dreams of the 10 went to ashes, but the fact that we're just coming out of the back of a global pandemic, which we're still in, by the way, despite what George Square might have led you to believe on Saturday. We are still in the middle of a pandemic, And there's so many supporters will have had their income sort of slashed, and will have to be finding ways and means to sort of, to make ends meet. It just, like I said again, it just shows if we thought things were bad, things are actually worse than what we fear, and it totally baffles me that there's still many amongst their support that will give these guys the benefit of the doubt. I accept that this current incumbent of Celtic leaders have not put us in an existential crisis the way their predecessors have, but on almost every other level, they are very much a reflection of their previous incumbents. Their sense of entitlement, their utter contempt for the people that fill their terraces and pay their wages week in, week out, it's disgusting. We are not. The only time we ever matter is when those season ticket forms come out. I utterly despise every single one of them, because not one of them are fit for purpose. I mean, our chairman, Ian Blankier, I mean, my God, a man so wooden, birds try and nest in him. He's absolutely... I mean, he's just a faceless, pathetic character, and that goes for all the rest of them as well. I just wish there would be someone, and I hope it's Dominic Mackay, that can drag us out of this mess, because right now, there's not. Right now, I'm normally quite an optimistic guy, but reading some of the reports for this meeting just goes to show we're in dire straits behind the scenes.
We alluded to it last week, John. As you said, he was talking about modernising the club, and it just points to what state, as Anthony said, is the club in. And what struck out for me the most in terms of what he said, basically, if you don't back us with a full season ticket quota, we can't go out and strengthen the team like we need to. And we're sitting there with a majority shareholder, as you said, could wipe his arse with Celtic's annual income. We're sitting there with a board who get bonuses of up to £3 million. We're sitting here as fans, and as Anthony said, the board treat us like a customer number one now. We're not a fan to them. We are a customer. We're a client number. Yep. We're a receipt for the till. We're cash in their direct debits. That's all we are. And I find it astounding. I really, really do. That people point to this 9 years of success that we've had, but people fail to understand this. This 9 years of success, it's not paper over the cracks. That's maybe a harsh term to use, but these surfaces were bubbling underneath all that success. And when it goes tits up, what's happened this season, it comes to show. Because once the fans start criticising the board, we're told to shut up. We're told that we're entitled. We're told to pipe down. You'll get what you're given. Then we're told, give us your ideas for these season books while we make you pay full price. Look across the set. Well, look the other districts like Motherwell, giving their fans a season book for free because they bought one last season, and their annual income is nothing compared to Celtic. It's a drop in the ocean, literally like a 1p in a toilet. And we're going around asking for £600, sitting with a billionaire owner who does absolutely nothing for the club. I'd argue that with anybody. And as Anthony said, yes, they haven't put us in like a financial crisis where we're going bust or whatever, but in every other level in the football department, we are in absolute crisis. I'll be blunt. And we're going into this period now with no clarification. We all believe it's going to be Eddie Howe, but no clarification from them whatsoever. What's your opinion that everything that we were talking about has been confirmed from Friday's show? How do you feel about that?
It's angry. I mean, it's no. I think the sad thing is as angered as I am by it, I'm not even surprised. I mean, that's really is the saddest thing. It's like we've hit a stage now where the board are acting in a way where it doesn't at all surprise you, and that in itself is telling. Like Anthony says, they're no fit for purpose. Every one of them should just go. Like, I don't think any fan really, or at least 99% of the fans, don't want them at the club. They've been shouting it for years that they're the problem. Despite our successes, we've known issues with the board, and like you say, is the contempt they sort of treat the fans with is disgusting. And I went on a bit of a rant as well about that statement they made about not being able to. They won't be in a position to back a team if people aren't paying for the full price for their season tickets. It's really, really frustrating to see that is definitely everything that was says. Like you mentioned, Desmond is a billionaire. If you really have to understand how much a billion is in terms of monetary value, given the Celtic fans, even I mentioned this last episode as well. Even just a discount, like something, offer something, right? Don't just be penny pinching and all the rest of it. Like Motherwell made a fantastic gesture, and we've given them numerous plaudits on this show for it, and it's rightly deserved. We even said at the time as well, Celtic would never do something like that, and that's sad. And when you consider that in terms of finances, was certainly the most healthy financial position across all the clubs in Scotland. We're no struggling by any means, and like you say, we've got a billionaire owner there who could front the cost for that for the fans, and he wouldn't even notice it was missing. That's how little in terms of money it would be to him. So it's laughable to suggest that there would be no investment, and as I said last time, it almost sounds like a threat. You're blackmailing staff, and you're telling them you're blackmailing the fans, and you're telling them if you don't buy a season ticket, we won't be investing in the squad. And it's absolutely, I'm trying not to swear, but it's deplorable on every level. And I'm firmly with Anthony here. I hate them. I despise them. They bring nothing to the club. They do nothing for the club. You look at all these other billionaire investors that come in and buy football clubs. Some of them aren't great, but don't get me wrong, we've seen it. But you get other guys who they invest in the team. They put their money behind them. And then we've got one. What does he do? Like, somebody please tell me what he does.
I have no idea.
Because all he is to me is a name.
Yeah.
And then when you mention his name, I don't think of anything that he's actually done for Celtic, so to speak. I just see that stupid mustache. Like, I don't know who he thinks he is. Like, all you ever hear about him is he's away playing golf. Like, that's all he does to me. And this is a guy who he's a majority shareholder in this club, and he's got nothing to show for it. Like, that's all he is as a name. And that as well, and I had to bite my tongue, Anthony, when you mentioned this guy who the first person to stand up, and the first thing he said was, I've got 6 season tickets to buy. I've got the money here. Like you said, that, fuck me. I don't even know who this guy is, and he might be alright.
He was a plant. Let's be honest about this.
It sounds like a plant, because I don't think any self-respecting Celtic fan would kind of stand up in front of a room full of other fan representatives and say something like that, because that is a sign of an absolute arsehole. And when you think about
last night on the bulletin, when Tony Hegarty heard Kevin Graham saying that, he just went, "See, if I'd have been in charge of that call, I'd have just chucked him it." Because it was obviously
I'd just tell him to shut up and sit down. I mean, when you think everything that Celtic is, where it was founded on, and the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic, as you rightly said, Anthony, the fact that we know that, I mean, people of Scotland aren't rich, right? Let's be honest. And Celtic fans front money for season tickets that most of them probably don't even have, but they do it because they love the club, right? For him to stand up and then say, "So I've got not just one, like I've got the money here for it to do 6." You're having a laugh, arsehole.
Do you think we're at the point now, Anthony, where this? I mentioned this on Friday's show, and the lads quite rightly said their points of view. But the way I was coming across this, do you think it's at the point now where the board are treading on eggshells so much now that all Celtic fans, I know it's hard, okay, we had this argument about, yes, there's going to be the hardcore majority that are going to spend the £600, £1,000, whatever it is for their season book. But do you think we're at the point now where it's only a matter of time before we see a large fan movement basically ousting this board out from office?
I think.
Or
I think ousting them is not that I would be sorry to see them go. I'm just the act of it itself. I think it's probably still quite unrealistic. I think you only have to look at the comment section of many forums to say that people will still applaud Lawwell and wish him well when he goes, and get behind it, faithful, hashtag faithful through and through, and all that. So
sorry, Anthony, I'll let you finish that what you're saying, because I agree with what you're saying. But in regards to Law, see if fans want to turn around and praise him, right? It better be for the right reasons, because for a business perspective and the financial position that Celtic find themselves in now since he's came in is largely in part down to him, right? But you can't use that. That doesn't at all cover him for all his other failings, and he doesn't deserve any plaudits.
Yeah, but like everyone knows my views on the man. To be fair, but just to go back to but my point, I don't think there's the demand and the clamour like there was in 1994, because, like I said, that was an existential crisis, and that is a case of we're going to the wall here, and all of us are sensible enough. We know what going to the wall means. That means you're dead and you're gone, and your history goes with it. So there is not that clamour purely on the fact that the club is stable. But in terms of plaudits and respect, I think support for the board is dwindling. I don't think it'll ever reach the levels of, nuclear, unless something was to perhaps go seriously wrong next year. But even if it did, the way that the club's set up now is, it's a PLC. It answers to, the financial district in London before it answers to the fans in Kerrydale, on Kerrydale Street. So it's hard. The 1994 ousting was an incredible display of fan movement, especially in a sort of before the age of the internet. Whether or not something like that is possible or is sort of being demanded for at the moment is probably we're probably a bit from that distance so far.
One of the most frustrating parts of me, anyway, is that I'm not going to try to say a word, but it's the attitude they have now towards the fans. You hear the word entitlement getting banded around within certain quarters in regards to Celtic fans, and we always have the argument back. It's not being entitled; it's the standards we set, and we rightly touched upon on this show that have dropped so significantly bad this season. But when it suits the board, when it suits the PR team, they use the fans in their Twitter posts, best fans in the world, the full stadium singing, and we love the fans so much. And when the fans just want something back, John, from the board, they get, as you Scottish people like to say, hee-haw.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right, though. We know as Celtic fans, the fan base is absolutely massive, right? We know how passionate and we know how loyal Celtic fans are. The board know it as well, and that's why they use it, because they feel they can get away with it. But at the same time, they don't answer to fans, they don't listen to fans, and that's evident, and it's been evident, especially this year. But I mean, it's not the first time. And as Anthony says, I don't think we're sort of at that level yet, but it's certainly the route we're taking. And it wouldn't surprise me if next season, if they don't get the finger out and things don't change, and something doesn't change, then I could, if next season could be the season where that sort of ignites. Because I know, certainly myself anyway, I'm ready for it. Like, I don't want these people at the club anymore. They've done nothing for the club. And like I say, they're all faceless, and they only talk to the fans when it suits them. And these wee fan forums and stuff like that are just PR stunts to try and make it sound like they're listening. They don't give a they don't care at all about what the fans have to say. Like you mentioned, when fans do kind of speak up, they kind of like tell them be quiet. They throw about that word entitlement and stuff like that. It's ridiculous, because ultimately football's for the fans. It's not for these guys, and that was made evident as well when this whole Super League nonsense was kicking off, and then fans across Europe started kicking up about it. They listened to the fans then, and then they started pretending fans matter. Celtic are so far detached for the fans that support the club, pay their wages and everything else, that it's ridiculous. So I firmly believe that Celtic fans should band together, and we should get them out the door. We can't continue to just let them get away with it. We need a voice, and it needs to be heard. And like I says, they've had rather many chances to make up for it, and that latest fan forum just proved that again. They've not just fell asleep at the wheel in terms of this season in the league. They've just fallen asleep altogether.
Yeah. Well, if I go back to the weekend there, Anthony talked about it, Rogers and stuff, winning the FA Cup with Leicester for the first time in their history. I'd seen obviously watching the game and their celebrations, and I'd seen him hugging their chairman of Leicester City. And I was going to tweet out, you would never see Rogers and Law hugging like that on the pitch, embracing each other after everything that happened. But as John said, there is these owners that come into a club and they wear their heart on their sleeve and they want the best for the club, Anthony. And you look at Leicester's owner, obviously the tragic death that happened within their family, but they're still stuck by Leicester and things. Is that the kind of next step for Celtic if ever we get rid of the people who are in charge? Or would you like talking from a totally hypothetical point of view, this is not me saying this is what I want to happen, but just getting your guys' views on it. Would you be happy to go down that route of a foreign owner with proven credentials rather than people who just want the money and investment firms, that type of thing? Would you be happy going down that road?
I mean, I must admit, Leicester's owners are one of the few, sort of, like you say, foreign owners down south that I really have any time for. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still ruthless businessmen. They're cuddly looking guys, don't get me wrong, and they've got a good rapport with the fans and whatnot, but let's not forget, they also still sacked a guy that won them the league less than 8 months later. So they're very capable of making sort of ruthless business decisions as well. I would need to. I think myself and probably most other fans would want to see a lot of due diligence, to coin the phrase, sort of applied to any potential anyone. But it doesn't matter if they come from New York or Dubai or down the road. Anyone wanting to, as much as I've got no time for the people that run our club just now, any prospective new owners or consortiums or anything like that would have to seriously lay out their plans and vision for the club, much in the same way that Fergus did.
Yeah. See as well, John, before we move on to the next subject, as Anthony said there, right? Yes, we as fans don't like the board. We don't like the people who are involved in the board. It's often referred to as the prawn sandwich brigade, the types of suits with faceless identities. But is it not, for me as well, from speaking from a Celtic fan's point of view too, it's the fear of the unknown if we ever lose these board, because we've kind of got in the habit knowing, yes, we don't like the board, but at the end of the day, we're in no financial difficulty. We're not going to go to the wall, touching wood here, by the way, so I'm not jinxing anything, but is it not the fear as well that's stopping Celtic fans from basically coming together? And as you rightly said, you're ready for it. Me personally, I'm ready for it too, to be honest. But is it the fear that a new owner comes in and it literally goes to shit?
Well, it's already went to shit.
No, but I mean from like a financial aspect of it, over investing, debts, that type of thing, because we know where we were in the 90s.
No, I mean, yeah, there's always that though, and that it could end up still going that way if you keep the same board. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no guarantees that anything's going to go any particular way. But ultimately, as Anthony says, if anybody was coming in and looking to seriously, if Desmond decided, I'm getting away from this, I'm going to sell my shares, right? And there was prospective buyers coming in, I would really, really like to think that they would be vetted considerably. Extensive sort of work was done to look into projects I've done, and I would love it if they would let fans have a say, because I know that's highly unlikely, but it would be ideal, because like it says, you didn't want some no name, like you didn't want to end up in a situation like the Man United are in with the Glazers or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, it is time for these guys to go. And you claim, like, Desmond and all that claims to be Celtic fans and that, but are they really, honestly?
That's another unknown question. Surely, if you're a Celtic fan, you want the best for Celtic. You can see these problems and you can see them arise and you can fix them quickly.
They want the best. They do want the best for Celtic when it makes them money. That's it. That's all they care about, is lining their own pockets, and that's where the downfall is, because like you mentioned the Leicester owner, like Anthony says, these guys are still ruthless businessmen, right? And they'll still make decisions that are baffling, because that when they sacked, I forget his fucking name, but after he won them the league, which was an incredible feat, Ranieri, which was an incredible feat, to then sack him because they kind of, well, I guess they underperformed in comparison to the season prior, but they were certainly not underperforming for Leicester's, like, sort of the level you'd expect Leicester to be at. And to get rid of them then shows how ruthless that they can be. But at the same time, they have managed to sort of get the fans backing. They've got the players backing. They are a face. Do you know what I mean? Like, these people aren't they just hiding behind doors and behind the scenes, and they're not seen on holiday all the time, away golfing and all the rest of it. They probably do that, but it's like they're the face of the club as well. So, and you've seen that with the fact that he was invited down to the pitch. The fans, he was hugging the players, he was celebrating with the players. The players obviously respect him, and they've got time for him. You would never see Desmond do that. You would never see Law do that. And it just shows you how, again, at a club like yours, it's like you would love to have an owner where you seen that sort of relationship between the players and the owners, and for them to sort of look at the fans and then say, we're going to listen to you. And I'm hoping, like, I mean, hope's a big word because it'll never happen, but I'd like to seriously see Celtic turn things around. And if this board care in any way, shape or form, then they need to start listening, and they need to make that evident as well.
I think that the perfect way to end this bit of the segment is basically we got 9 million, like fourth or fifth highest ever in manager compensation. And as Anthony said, we went into the showers and appointed Neil Lennon. Kind of says it all, really, as the board are at the moment. And we'll move on.
And then they handed themselves 3 million in bonuses and all the rest of it. So that was nice.
That kind of paid for it, didn't it? But we'll move on to the next thing, right? So, us as Celtic fans, we've had 9 years of success. We've seen wild celebrations, peaceful, yes. We've seen open top buses, treble, double treble, the invincible treble, not 1/3 of the invincibles, and amazing celebrations, iconic pictures that we've seen and that still get posted daily, and it's lovely to see that. And I living on that success, right? What was seen, and I know for a fact we'll probably get heat for it, but again, it's not to be ignored. I just want to bring this up as a point. I'm not actually moaning about it myself, but it's just good to get it out there and get it talked about, because I think a lot of people kind of brush it away and be like, it's okay, it's just a celebration, right? But we haven't just seen it once. We've seen it twice this season when Rangers were confirmed champions. The wild celebrations outside Ibrox. Players come to Ibrox gate celebrating, drinking through the fence. Same up at their training ground. The same happened. They wrecked George Square for the first time. Again, nothing really was done about it. What was seen was their league trophy presentation. Obviously, the first time they've ever seen the trophy, but do you know what I mean? It's in their trophy cabinet now. And wild celebrations as expected. But again, it spilled over into the streets of Glasgow. There was violence, there was fighting, multiple videos circulating on Twitter of people punching the heads of each other, among their own fans, by the way. And again, it's just like this is facilitated, Anthony. Like, it's allowed. And over here, I mean, it's called a small minority, and I don't like that, because you see the amount of fans. It's not like 100 fans turned up at George Square. We're seeing on that bridge as well, where they're all jumping. There are at least 10,000 there in the streets of Glasgow. They're drinking, they're wrecking the place, and it's all because they deserve a party, Anthony. What do you think about that?
The only thing that shocked me about this weekend is the amount of Scotland's political class that tweeted things along the lines of shocked and saddened at the scenes in Glasgow today. I mean, if these people are shocked by these images, then they've got really, really short memories. It was pretty much the exact same, literally a matter of weeks ago. Wrecking places wherever they go, fighting amongst themselves, defecating, wallowing in their own filth. This is these people's default setting. Ask the people of Barcelona, ask the people of Manchester, ask pretty much any away venue where they go to as well. Whether it is a minority or not, and this is the problem for Rangers. It may well be a minority, but the problem is the so-called dignified majority are doing nowhere near enough to call it out. They seem to play a little game of whataboutery rather than address their own issues. We've had our idiots this season. The clowns outside Parkhead the night of the Ross County defeat. I was also, I mean, I'm a socialist by nature, so I don't have much for unelected privilege. But I thought there was idiots letting off fireworks after the Duke of Edinburgh's death. I thought was just really in bad taste as well. But the thing is, the majority. I mean, I can't remember there being any Celtic fans, certainly on my social media, that were defending the actions of our fans the night after County and so forth. The majority called them out. They says, this is pathetic. Get a grip of yourselves. I seen very little of that. I can't say I seen none of that. I did see 2 or 3 saying how sickened they were. So you have to be fair. But was I shocked at any of these scenes? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, over here, where I live, Shankle's a very famous place. Rangers, a lot of Rangers fans live there. And what they done was they brung a big, massive TV out in the street, stuck up on the side of the wall, all day outside, drinking, partying, singing songs, hatred songs, obviously. John, and me looking at the scenes in Glasgow, a lot of it still goes widely unreported. You look at the fighting, you look at the George Square being wrecked, and then the people who have to come in and clear it up within like 3 hours for opening again when the public's around. And it's almost like, yes, you rightly said there, Anthony, about the Ross County thing, but I'm one for protest, right? But I wouldn't be one for that kind of violence protest. It spilled over when they started attacking the team bus and then they tried to break down the barriers to get to the players. That wasn't right. But the protest itself, if it remained peaceful, fair enough. There was only maybe 300 or 400 fans there at the time. It wasn't thousands of fans. And yes, we'll have to be fair. I myself have seen a few Rangers fans come out and say it was bad what they've done. And there'll always be them Rangers fans come out and say that. But I think Anthony's right, John. The majority, even their own board, to a certain extent, don't do enough to condemn this, because we see it with the Green Brigade, the fights they have with the Celtic board on a daily basis. Most recently with the Powell signs display that we covered on the last podcast. We've seen it with certain songs they sing, banners they put up, they get fined for it, Celtic get fined, it gets clamped down. You don't really see that from the board over across the city.
No, definitely not. And I'm glad we're touching on this, because this is something that's been going on for a long, long time and always seems to get swept under the carpet. The scenes at the weekend were despicable. The Rangers board did put out some, or somebody put out, whoever it is charging their PR, put out a tweet asking people to stay home, but that was essentially it. There was no much else off the back of that. We and everybody else knew what was going to happen, because we seen it a number of weeks ago when they destroyed George Square. The exact same again happened to nobody's surprise. Yet I don't know why people are still acting surprised. But the scenes were absolutely disgusting. And this whole rhetoric, or the narrative rather, that it's a small minority is absolute shite. We know, and we've seen it, and we deal with it day in, day out. Even people that we know in their day-to-day lives as well. It's rife. It's ingrained in them. It's just who they are. You will obviously, and I'm not going to tar everybody with the same brush, because there is Rangers fans, and I know some of them who don't condone any of it whatsoever, and they support the club, and that's the extent of it. They don't buy into all the other nonsense, but by and large, the majority of them do. And I am sick to the back teeth hearing about it. See if the shoe was on the other foot. When Celtic fans protested, because after poor results, like many fans have done in the past, protested outside Celtic Park. Yes, it was stupid because it was during a pandemic, but the reasoning for it was so their voice could be heard. They weren't happy. That protest was by and large ignored. The media, however, ran with it for weeks. every paper you picked up, every way you looked, it was getting thing with it. And there was elements of violence, which I don't condone at all. Like you said, Stephen, the protests in any case or any shape and form should be peaceful. You've got a right to sort of express and protest. But it should have remained peaceful. The people that were attacking the bus and everything else are absolute clowns. And you get it on both sides. Don't get me wrong. It's no. This isn't just like a one-sided thing. It definitely isn't. But it is far, far worse at the other side of Glasgow. Now we, as I say, we know. I need to watch what I'm saying, right? Because as it says, I'm no. People aren't going to be happy, maybe about some of the stuff that's been said, and I need to watch what I'm saying because I don't want to use quote unquote derogatory terms. But if you look at Rangers, right, like I say, throughout their history, their fans have been guilty of stuff like this. Back in the 60s, where the now derogatory name that they're called was essentially born from, was back in the 60s when they went to Wolverhampton and ruined it, smashed the place up. Then we've seen it. If you look at you want to use contrast. When Rangers got to the UEFA Cup final, and we're in Manchester, we all know what happened in Manchester. We all seen the scenes, the fighting, the rampage through the city, the mess they left it in. But then it's like when Celtic got to a European final, 80,000 people travelled abroad and were applauded, thanked. Even you did have a couple of obviously people who had too much to drink, but by and large, FIFA even recognised it and awarded the fans, and that is what you expect for any sort of football and travelling support when they're supporting a team, because that's how football fans should be, right? But as I said, this hate, this sectarian, anti-Catholic hatred that they've got, this loyalist, pro-union, hate everybody else attitude is ingrained in them for a very young age, and it's rife and it needs stamped out. And we as Celtic fans, and not just Celtic fans, any fans across the board, they deal with it. Hibs fans deal with it as well. We need to stand together the same way we do it against any sort of racism, kick racism out of football and everything else. We all need to stand together and finally put an end to all this anti-Catholic bigotry and all this other stuff, because I mean, I know in this country the sort of religious divide, it's a wee bit, it's not as easy as that, and I'm well aware of that. But Stephen, you yourself know firsthand what it's like, living just outside Belfast. You can see day to day what that struggle's like. There's certain places you can't walk, you can't go about saying certain things. You open your mouth in the wrong place where you'll get stabbed or worse. You wear a certain colour somewhere where you'll get stabbed or worse. Glasgow isn't necessarily that bad, but there is still areas of Glasgow where if you wear a certain colour or you say a certain thing or you're a certain religion, you'll get stabbed. And we need to fucking just stamp it out completely. I'm sick to death of hearing it. And like I says, we deal with it day to day. We're all being victim of it. I get called stuff all the time. Like I says, I need to watch what I'm saying because I don't want to use the words in that language. But you get called it. Anthony, I'm sure you've been called it. I get called it. Everybody we know. And I know that we're all guilty, maybe a wee bit of friendly banter between friends and stuff like that, and you'll maybe say something, but it's all tongue-in-cheek. But when you're gathered en masse the way they were, you're singing stuff like that. I had a friend who works in Glasgow. My wee Roisin as well, Stephen, was out to celebrate a birthday dinner in Glasgow, and decided just to wrap it and go home because they were scared. Right, they couldn't move anywhere, and they genuinely were in fear. They had to go home. My friend who works in Glasgow, just under the bridges, Glasgow Central Bridge, had to walk a young girl home, or rather up to the station because she was in fear. And then they had to find they and like many other places we've heard within Glasgow as well, through threats of violence and just general fear, shops getting smashed up, had to close the doors and go home. police presence wasn't anywhere near good enough. And I, granted, knew it. Nicola, and fair play to Nicola for coming out and actually touching on not just the fact of the violence and everything else, but touching on the anti-Catholic sort of nonsense that was going on. But more needs to be done about it, and we can't just keep ignoring it.
Yeah,
And
I think it's fair to point out as well, John, that we can't all tar the Rangers support with one brush. We have certain elements of our support that go to the extremes and look for.
But I said that at the start. I said
you
get it both sides, and I'm not tarring everybody with the same brush, but it is ingrained in them, and you can't deny it. The Rangers fans can't even deny it. You will get some who might hear this or will defend it, and because that's no them, and that's fine. If that's no you, then that's no you. This isn't about you. This is about the ones that it has been ingrained in them for a young age, and I've seen it. We see it all the time, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, I think as well, Anthony, it's all right, and not all right, but the fans doing all that, right? And then you expect maybe the players to set a better example. And then you get the footage of the players, they're all indoors drinking when that's a COVID breach. But again, we'll probably hear nothing about that. But we go to Dubai and lose a full team for like 2 games. So I know that was distasteful at the time. We all agree we shouldn't have went. But look back at hindsight at other things that certain clubs have done that kind of been just like, nah, it's okay, blah, blah, blah. And we see them all indoors with friends and family. And we see this video going around social media from, at the moment, 2 different angles. I'm not going to confirm that it's real, but what we're going off at the minute, the police are investigating the footage and just speaking about it. If it is real footage of what we believe the Sweet Caroline song plus the chorus in the after bit, if that's what they're saying, surely that needs to be punished. That club needs to be punished if that's true footage, Anthony.
For what it's worth, I'm sure I would believe that. I don't think necessarily the club overall would, but the individual concerned would, because it as I say, it's I think we probably shouldn't go into that at the minute, mate. I don't know what you sound a bit bland, but it is getting investigated at the minute, and I don't think it would be wise to go any further with that until there's a verdict given.
No, that's fair enough. I was just looking for an opinion. Obviously, from my point of view, I'll just give it to you, and I give it to you straight. If that's true, and if what they said in the thing, pending the police investigation, of course, I'm just going off the narrative of what I think maybe will happen. But I believe personally that they should be punished if that's true. There's certain players in that team that are of the religion that was getting kind of lambasted, John. I don't know if you want to delve into it, but if it is true, what's your opinion on that circulating around Twitter?
Yeah, no, so I'm definitely not going to be quiet about it. And I can only speak on what we do know. We've seen numerous now videos, different type video, not just the one video, a couple of different videos, right? I believe they were broadcast live as well. So this sort of nonsense about it being doctored, right? If that is the case, then fair play to whoever done it, because there should be a job somewhere getting paid a lot of money. I'm assuming, no, doing whatever it was they were doing, or whoever it was that was recording it. But what I will say is that if that footage is in fact true, as I believe it to be, because like I says, to edit the audio and everything else on the fly live the way they did in numerous different videos, people throwing up middle fingers on cue as a just pure coincidental. If that is true, and after the police investigation, which I'm fully expecting to nothing to come out, because that's the sort of general thing that happens, they'll come out with some nonsense like it was inconclusive or anything like that. Rangers, from a PR perspective, are definitely going to have to defend it. They're going to say it's doctored, but that in itself, saying that it's doctors, is admission that what is being said in the video is exactly that. So I feel that they should be heavily punished, and no just a slap on the wrist, not just by the SPFL, but by UEFA in general. Because if that was any other club and they were singing songs like that, then you would expect the exact same to happen. Now, like I said, what that punishment should be, I don't know, but it cannot go unignored. It cannot be ignored. It cannot just be swept under the rug. And I don't want to hear any pish about it being inconclusive when we've all got ears, we can all hear it. And if they can, I want to know if they do determine that it is fake, I want them to detail how. Because I'd be interested to know, as somebody who's into that kind of stuff, video editing and things like that, I'd be interested to know like how they managed to edit a video on the fly while it was live.
Yeah, I think as well. I mean, obviously on the NSL's podcast, we don't condone any racism, sectarianism, bigotry. That's on both sides, by the way, getting that out there. And I think a way to end it as well, guys, is yes, what's circulating around Twitter is deplorable. It's not nice to see. And pending the police investigation, we don't know the outcome. But some guys, likes of John, have their minds up made. Me, myself, personally, I think it's real. I do. I just, the multiple angles we've seen in the videos and that type of thing. And as an Irishman of that certain religion domain, it wasn't nice to see, especially professional footballers saying that and doing that. But I think Anthony's right too. We do have to be careful what we say in the show. Pending the police investigation, we don't know the outcome. As John said, it could end up inclusive, but we can only give our opinion on it. And it's just coming from a purely ourselves, no other general coming, no consensus from anyone else, no sources telling us things. It's just us three as individuals. And guys, that brings us to the end of the show. It's been a good show, controversial towards the end, but we'll have to cover these issues, John and Anthony, as Celtic men and as people who love football. We can all agree that sectarianism, racism, bigotry don't feature and shouldn't feature in football. I think we'd agree on that, fellas, can't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. And coming to the end of the show, we're going to go to the quiz, trying to end on a positive note between John. He's back in the hot seat today with Anthony.
Is there any point in this?
Why? You just never know what'll happen.
And I just have something to tell you. I'm going back to the stadiums again.
Oh,
So,
for crying out.
All right, okay.
So, are you ready?
Nope.
Yeah, go for it.
Who plays at the Tony Macaroni Stadium?
Livingston.
Anthony, I heard you first. 1-0.
No danger.
Yep. Who plays at Palmerston Park?
No idea.
Oh,
2-0
Palmerston. Palmerston.
You give up?
Nah, I can't think off the top of my head, mate. No.
Queen of the South.
Yep.
Who plays at Broadwood Stadium?
Airdrie. No, Clyde.
Yep. 2-0 Anthony.
I'm just throwing names at me.
Let's see. I'll give you a hard one here. Who
Was
plays?
that 1-1?
No, it's 2-0 to Anthony. You talking about?
You talking
Who plays at Station Park?
Station. Is it
It's
Stranraer?
No. One more guess. It's nothing to do with a train. This is called Station Park.
Cowdenbeath.
Yeah.
Oh, nope. Forfeit. Move on. Still 2-0 to Anthony. Right. This should be an easy one. We've all heard of this. Who plays at Stir Park?
Where?
Stir, so like Stair Park.
Nah, my knowledge stadiums isn't what they used to be, mate. No idea.
No, are you sure? You want to move on?
Aye.
I'll not get stairs.
It's unfortunate because it was Stranraer, Anthony. I kind of
Oh, God's sake.
so it did. Hopefully you get this one to finish it then. Who plays at Capello Park?
Greenock Morton.
Yep. Bang. 3-0 Anthony. Well done, Anthony.
2-1
John.
Anthony.
Aye, 3-0.
Well done,
But guys, thanks again for a brilliant show. Have you enjoyed that one?
Oh, absolutely, mate. All the time, yep.
And again, just to make the viewers aware, it's just purely our opinion. Obviously, some stuff we can't get into legally, as Anthony rightly said. It's just we're giving our points of view. And if the police find that it's doctored, then we just have to hold our hands up and say,
Push.
we got that wrong. And as John said, hopefully we find out if it's doctored, how it was, and we'll move on from there. But just recently today, actually, I concluded my interview with Lewis Toshney, so that should be out before the end of this week. Keep your eyes peeled for that one. It's fantastic insight into his career around Scottish football. He talks about Tommy Burns, Neil Lennon, Paul Slane of Open Goal, and Simon Ferry. Some funny stories in that as well. So keep your eyes peeled. And until Friday, our usual podcast, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.